your picks. Give me your insights. I want the bets from Betting Weekly, because we win. That is our motto. Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't win. Don't give us the bird, don't give us your stink eye. We try our best and we're successful. Come watch our show. That River sponsor. It's time to start. Enjoy the show.
Welcome in everyone to Betting Weekly Live, Tuesday the 10th of December. You with Steve Wyss and Will White, the last match day of the Champions League of 2025. This is match day 6. Will, how are you doing? Hope you're doing really well.
Good day to you, Steve. Good day, everyone out there. I'm doing very well. Yeah, it's the last match day of 2025. Not of the group stage just yet, but yeah, some interesting games last night. We hit the daily double again. So we go again tonight, see if we can get another one in the bag.
Yeah, some loads of daily double wins in the last 2-3 weeks. That was the latest one. Nigel, right on point with that over 2.5 goals double yesterday. Well done to our director of content, who was, again, he's been in brilliant form in this Champions League whole season, really, and a pretty convincing winner, apart from, you know, he was made to sweat in the first half. Bayern were 0-0, but they turned it around in the second half there. And we hope we'll be having the daily double later. And me and Will are going to be back for the breakdown show later as well at 5:15 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be sort of breaking down the recent Champions League card and just sort of soccer in general, really. We'll have a good talk. We'll be reviewing that match yesterday, Inter against Liverpool, which I know a lot of us got burnt in. Although a shout out to the guy called A, who was very much in Liverpool's corner yesterday. But I want to welcome everyone in and put your best bets in chat. Today, loads of matches on the card in the Champions League, which we're going to go all the way through. I'm just looking now through everyone that's currently in. Good to see Real Brandon King as well. And yeah, anyway, in terms of winners and losers yesterday, it wasn't a bad one for the big ones on the sportsbook in the Champions League. $20,000 on Barcelona Eintracht Frankfurt live, under 3.5 goals. That was a winner at -139. Bayern Munich against Sporting live, under 1.5 goals in the first half, -179. That was a winner. Interesting bet here on just $48 on QPR live on the money line against Birmingham at 30-1. So every day there's sort of these long odds winners that come through. And yeah, that Barcelona game, of course, was a 4.5 goal line that it kicked off at. Will, were you involved with that one?
Yeah, actually, when everyone else was focusing on the Inter-Liverpool game, I was focusing a bit more on Barca Eintracht. Yeah, it was a crazy goal line, wasn't it?
Unbelievable.
I ended up doing all right. I was on Frankfurt plus 2.5, which I also thought was a crazy handicap for a very defensively open Eintracht Frankfurt team. I can see what the market was thinking. I think it just got a little bit too carried away there.
Yeah, I think it probably did. It was, and it looked like the final outcome was pretty much deserved, really. It's just 2-1. And Barcelona didn't really deserve too much more. Remember the UCL Matchday Profit Boost Pack. Log into Bet Rivers on any UEFA Champions League Matchday to receive a Profit Boost Pack consisting of 3 boosts. That's live wager boost, same game parlay boost, and the standard wager boost as well. See the Bet Rivers app or website for full details. And we do have house specials in the Manchester City game when we come to it later on, and we'll crack on with the bets straight away. Let's have a look at the Champions League table, though. First and foremost, Arsenal will be defending their 100% record later on against Club Brugge. Ajax down the bottom there on 0 points. And, of course, you've got to get in the top 24. For certain teams now, it's looking like the game's up for them, really. It's certainly looking quite bleak, and they're playing for pride and for prize money. But it's a very competitive heat. If you get in the top 8, you will get straight into the round of 16 and bypass the playoff legs. Okay, so 2 early fixtures in the Champions League today. We start in Spain Villarreal against FC Copenhagen here. A Villarreal side who are going quite well domestically. Minus 240 favourites here against the Copenhagen side at plus 550. A high goal line here, which that stood out to me, Will. I quite like the under goal line here myself. But Villarreal are going great guns domestically. I know they've got a few injuries. How good are Villarreal this season, Will? Because, is it a straight case of that they're the fourth best team in Spain at the minute?
They're pretty good. I wouldn't say they're the fourth best. It's probably between them and Athletic Club Bilbao in my ratings. But they are going well domestically. Not so well, though, in the Champions League, right?
Yeah, I think it's been a bit more of a struggle for them. I mean, we know the Pafos result wasn't ideal. I think they've lacked goals in the Champions League. And sometimes when you come to this level, you can struggle in that sort of thing. But, I mean, I watched some of their game at the weekend against Getafe. And that's the sort of fixture. If they weren't playing that well, they'd probably draw 0-0. But they managed to win by 2-0. I actually see a similar sort of outcome myself here. Again, I'm surprised the goal line is so high. You can get 3.25 under here, minus 117. I just think FC Copenhagen will come here and try and grind out a draw. That's how I see FCK going about their business. Yeah,
I was tempted by the under 3.25 myself, but at the end of the day, 4 of 5 Copenhagen games have gone over that line. So I think the line says more about Copenhagen than it does Villarreal. And Copenhagen are just a bit of a mess at the moment, right? They lost 2-0 at home at the weekend to St-Germain. The fans are not happy. And Villarreal really should get the win here, but it's hard to find any value at the line. They're 1.25 goal favourites. The under-overs 3.25. Would probably lean towards under there, but those Copenhagen defensive numbers just really put me off. It feels like a kind of 2-0, 3-0, 2-1, 3-1 kind of game. I think in the player props market, there's a little bit of value just because of those offensive absences we're talking about for Villarreal, the likes of Gerard Moreno. Maybe Tano Oluwasi will get the start here up front for Villarreal with Mikatadze. Mikatadze is a short price in the shots on target and the other prop markets. But Oluwasi's, he averages 1.2 shots on target per 90. If he does get the start here this season at minus 148, just to have a shot on target or more, I think that's really big. He averages 1.2 per 90 this season. And given their minus 1.25 goal favourites, you can't really have him that. You shouldn't really have him that sort of price to register a shot on target.
Yeah, they are missing the likes of Moreno, Parejo. There's a suspension as well going around. I think it's Foyth at the back. It looks like it'll be a normal 4-4-2 system. Mikatadze is going to be a major threat for them. But there's other possibilities for players to catch the eye for Villarreal today. There is 89% of the money on them and 90% of the tickets. And 87% of the money is on the over. And one of the biggest pre-match bets of the day, actually, is on the over 3.5 goals at plus $155,000. I'm not a big fan of that bet, I must say. I think you might need Villarreal to do all the heavy lifting for you there, potentially. I'm not sure FCK will get on the score sheet here. A lot depends on their mentality, to be honest, FCK. If they come here to play a bit of ball, then obviously it's a completely different matter. But historically, they would often just come to try and keep it tight. Whether they can keep it tight is a different matter, of course. I mean, there's a lot of people putting here Villarreal winning under 4.5 goals at round evens. That looks a pretty solid bet, really, doesn't it? It covers for a lot of correct scores in there. Ginepi likes Villarreal win to nil. Win to nil at plus 200. Is it that big for win to nil? It can't be, surely. Unless that's part of a parlay, Ginepi. Is it really?
You've probably got both teams to score is minus 162, Steve. So that does actually make sense.
Yeah, it would be, yeah. Yeah, both teams score no's at plus 123. That looks big to me. Anyway, we will move on to the team that's got 0 points in the table. The only side yet to get off the mark this season, Will, and this is Qarabag against Ajax. I mean, this is how the world that we live in, where Ajax is just so poor that Qarabag are nearly minus money favourites. But you can still get them here at plus 110 with Bet Rivers, and Ajax at plus 220. Both teams score, yes, at minus 205. Over 2.5 goals, minus 167. I mean, Qarabag have been very, very competitive in this Champions League. We know it means that the whole world to them. This Ajax team have been in free fall. They have won their last 2 matches domestically, though, which might give them a boost. The interim manager, Fred Grimm, said, "We want to get off this 0. It's embarrassing." Will they go off the mark tonight?
I'm not so sure they will, Steve, to be honest with you. Yeah, new manager in at Ajax, but it didn't start off too well. 4 losses in a row, I think, before the last couple of wins. Although that win on the weekend against Fortuna Sittard, if you look at the underlying numbers, it wasn't really deserved. So I'm not convinced. And they're missing the whole spine of their team. They're missing Sutalo at the back, Taylor in midfield, and Weghorst is out as well. They may rotate a little bit here, just given they haven't really got that much to play for, albeit there's 2.1 million euros on the line, I think, for a win. So it's hard to imagine any mass rotation. But Qarabag are pretty strong. I mean, especially at home. They drew with Chelsea and they beat FC Copenhagen. And they have a realistic chance of qualifying for the knockout round. So I don't know. There's been a lot of money for Ajax here off the plus a half handicap. It's now up to a quarter. And I'm getting kind of tempted by Qarabag minus a quarter. If that continues to drift and we see somewhere around even money, I think I'd be tempted in enough to have a bet there. Player props, though, again, Oscar Gluck, given Weghorst is out here, maybe Gluck plays in that false 9 position. He's done it before. Highly talented player we've spoken quite a lot about on the show in his past days at Red Bull Salzburg and now Ajax. He averages 1.26 shots on target per 90 this season, and I like him at minus 109. I think it's a very attractive price. So, yeah, that's Oscar Gluck.
It's going to be interesting to see what their lineup's going to be because, as many have put in the chat here, De Classica is this weekend, Ajax against Feyenoord, the biggest game in Dutch soccer. And they surely will have at least one eye on that. I mean, they can't, they're not going to qualify for the Champions League now. And I don't even think it's about the money. I think it's probably about pride, making sure they don't finish on 0 points. But, you know, you're right. Probably the league is more important right now. I've got the same bet here, Will. Qarabag minus 0.25 on the Asian handicap at minus 121. It just looks a really solid bet, that. It is one of my favourite lines in the Asians. And, you know, it does cover for that draw, which, you know, you can never fully rule out. There's an interesting betting split for the game, and you mentioned it. 57% of the tickets are on Qarabag, but 76% of the actual money's on Ajax. So I don't know quite what that would suggest in this game, but there has been, like you said, professional money maybe for them. I don't know who would trust them right now. I mean, they've been as bad as their namesake of their interim coach, haven't they?
Yeah, it's just a numbers thing, I think, when it comes to the money, the early money for Ajax. If you look at it on kind of like if you run a ratings-based model, I mean, albeit Ajax have been in free fall this season. Qarabag get opposed a lot by the big groups that play with big money, and off any ratings-based model, there's going to be showing value in Ajax here. But then, you know, how much can these models build in the motivation and the fact that they've got the Classica at the weekend, the fact that Taylor, Weghorst, Sutalo are all out? What's their lineup going to look like? So I think when it comes down to betting the main Asian line here, you want to know the lineups and you want to get involved, kind of buy high on these teams, either side. So maybe there'll be more money for Ajax. Obviously, if the lineup's weak, that might go into reverse. But I think if we're betting Qarabag here minus a quarter, I'd want to wait until as late as possible to see if there's any more money come in late for Ajax.
A couple of comments stood out to me here. Pitch Focus TV, welcome in. He says, Qarabag are undervalued. Ajax have fallen off a cliff this season. The over 1.5 team total looks decent. And Mr. Promes also likes that team total for Qarabag. Over 1.5 goals at roughly around about minus 120 there, which is worth considering. It's going to be, I think Qarabag will win. It's going to be an interesting game, though, because at some point Ajax, I think, will want to get off that 0 points mark. But with the game upcoming, it might be a good time to oppose them once more. Those two fixtures, by the way, Villarreal against Copenhagen and Qarabag Ajax, are the early kickoffs. They're getting underway in about an hour and a half's time. We may well have some lineups for you on the graphics when they do come out. So watch out for those. Anyway, probably the biggest game of the evening comes in Madrid. It is Real Madrid against Manchester City. An under fire Real Madrid recently, it must be said. And I'm a little bit surprised by the odds here, Will, I must say. I didn't expect Man City to be the outright favourites on the night. Plus 125 for them, plus 185 Real Madrid. I mean, is this a bit of a goal line's huge as well, considering two world-class keepers in the net? Is this a bit of an overreaction to what is going on sort of behind the scenes at Real Madrid recently, Will? Or would you say Manchester City legitimately deserve to be the favourites at the Bernabeu?
If you rewound to midweek last week, you could get Man City plus a quarter. Then after Real Madrid lost to Celta Vigo on the weekend, it moved to draw Tino bet. And I was thinking, what did I want to say about this game on the show? And I was hoping that Man City would be underdogs on that Tino bet line to pose the question, who's going to go off favourites here? Because I was going to put forward the case for Man City. Since then, they've been smashed in and they're minus 140 on the Tino bet line. Is that justified? Well, I think it is, really. I think, first of all, if we rewind to last season, Real Madrid were minus 3/4 of a goal home favourites in this same fixture against Manchester City. We're looking at a line that's moved almost a full goal, which is a lot. But at the end of the day, City are a much, much better team this season than they were last. Real Madrid are very unsettled. Lots of rumours of a rift between Alonso and some of the bigger names in the dressing room there. Real Madrid have tons of injuries at the back. Hulsen's out, Militao's out, Trent's out, Carvajal's long-term out, Mendy's out, Camavinga's out, and crucially, Mbappe is not at 100%. He broke a finger against Celta Vigo at the weekend. Evidently, that's not a problem, but he also has muscle complaints in his left thigh, I believe, or some part of his left leg. He is in the squad, but whether he'll start or not, I actually doubt whether he's going to start here. And at the end of the day, he's 59% of Real Madrid's goals this season, and by far their most important player if you look at kind of expected goal differential numbers per player. Mbappe is the god of Real Madrid, really. So I think the line move is justified. I can't make the case for Real Madrid for Manchester City at these prices, though. I lean over 3.25 at minus 109. It seems to be shortening, though, so we're almost at the 3.5 goal line. At the end of the day, these two played twice this February, I guess, last season. And the games finished 2-3 and 3-1, both in Real Madrid's favour. But they both went over the goal line with high expected goals numbers. And we are looking at the highest XG creation teams in the Premier League in Man City, 2.03 per 90. Real Madrid and La Liga at 2.33 per 90. So in terms of our daily double, actually my first leg is going to be over 2.5 in this game. It's hard to really see fewer than 3 goals here. But my best bet for this game is in the player props market. And it's a man that I think is going to have a big influence on the game. I do favour Man City to win the game, or at least as a bet on the Tino bet line. But I think Bellingham for Real Madrid has to play a big role here, given the uncertainty about Kylian Mbappe. And I think minus 109 for him to have a shot on target, given he averages 1.51 per 90 this season. That's with Mbappe in the team. Without Mbappe, I think that makes him even more influential. And that for me is a bet. I think it's a night for Jude to shine.
Yeah, I mean, very interesting thoughts there, it must be said. And lots of opinions coming up in chat there. Bill Brennan King was saying a pizza ladder on under 1.5 and 0-0. I think you've got your answer there from Will. My only concern with goals being scored is the two keepers can be so annoying if you're on overs sometimes, can't they? But the chances should be there. And Real Madrid's defence, the more you actually think about it, is going to be, and it always feels like it has been a makeshift defence for the last 2 years. Like, they rarely ever fully fit at the back. It's just a constant problem they've got. You know, you worry about them dealing with just the sheer physicalness of Haaland. And Xabi Alonso as well. I'm sure we'll talk about Xabi Alonso on the breakdown later, which comes up at 5:15 p.m. You mentioned there the Bellingham selection, and I think that's linked with the advent calendar that we're doing on Instagram. There's the account to follow. Let's hope it's a sweet treat behind that door today. It's not been good. I haven't been good on the advent calendar so far, well, unfortunately. So hopefully you can bail me out of a hole from yesterday's Inter pick that I had. In terms of the betting splits for the game, it's quite a close one. 55% of the money's on Real Madrid. 87% of the tickets are on Real Madrid. So Real Madrid will always command plenty of attention, of course. 77% of the money's on the over. And we've got two house specials in the game, which are quite interesting, actually. First one is Erling Haaland or Vinicius Jr. to score before the 20th minute at plus 250. So if you like an early goal from either of those two, that is the bet for you. And either team to score 2 or more goals in the first half is at plus 160. Do either of those house specials float your boat, Will?
Don't know. The second one, maybe. The second one, maybe at plus 160. This is likely to be both teams high pressing, quite high octane from the word go. I think over 1.5 total goals in the first half would be more tempting, although not probably as big a price. So maybe the second one.
Yeah, I like that second one, definitely. Plus 160 for either team to score 2 or more goals in that first half if it gets off to a banging start as such. We go to another Premier League team away from home now, and this is Bayer Leverkusen against Newcastle. Bayer Leverkusen plus 205, Newcastle plus 125, and the tie is plus 260. I mean, you mentioned there, justifiable reasons that Man City were favourites at Real Madrid. I'm not sure Newcastle can be justifiable favourites here at Leverkusen. I have this down as a pick'em game. I think Bayer Leverkusen are a really good price on the draw no bet here with Bet Rivers, plus 110 now. I gave this out on the newsletter on Monday. I think Bayer Leverkusen are not a bad overall side. They're much better managed now than they were, obviously, under Erik ten Hag. And Newcastle away from home. I know their 2 away wins have been convincing, but take those away, and they've not been at all reliable. I couldn't trust Newcastle on the road. But more importantly, I think they're another team looking ahead to the weekend. There's a huge fixture for them against Sunderland on Sunday. Time Weird derby, first Time Weird derby in 10 years in the Premier League. That's all their fans are talking about right now. So I'm going to oppose the tune here, Will. I'm not even sure the 11 that they field will be. They might even look at a little bit of rotation there. How are you assessing this game?
In regards to rotation, Eddie Howe has been rotating quite a bit. This Newcastle 11, Bruno and Tonali have both had rests over the past couple of weeks, so I'm not sure. It kind of sets up quite similarly to the Marseille-Newcastle game, where Newcastle were a similar price. So I guess, do we think Leverkusen are better than Marseille? I don't know. They're probably about the same. So my view on the main Asian line is this is pretty fair line. I think we can pretty much write off Leverkusen's win over City in the last round. City made 10 changes and frankly were the better team, didn't deserve to lose 2-0. My initial thoughts on this game was I was hoping to wake up and see that over 2.5 line drift. I'd have it down as a bet if it got to minus 130 kind of range, but it hasn't. It's shortened, if anything, which is a little bit annoying. So I've got no bet on this game other than a slight fancy for Bruno Guimaraes to have at least a shot on target at plus 195. Leverkusen, at the end of the day, they've conceded 5.6 shots on target per 90 in this competition. It's the 9th highest in the competition. And Bruno is one of those big game players. And I know Newcastle fans maybe don't think this is such a big game because they've got the derby coming up on the weekend. I get that. But at the end of the day, it is a Champions League. It's a Champions League game on the biggest stage in the world. Well, the biggest stage in Europe for sure. And I just thought that looked a little bit too big. That's all I've got, though. I've got nothing on the main Asian line.
He scored direct from a corner, of course, at the weekend, Bruno Guimaraes. He's been in good form. That does look a tempting price, that's for sure. It's an interesting debate, actually. Marseille or Leverkusen. I would agree with you. I think they're about the same. Maybe I would give Leverkusen a slight edge. Just it's a tough one to call, actually. But yeah, this is a good spot for them. They did have a disappointing result at the weekend against Augsburg. Result that came out of nowhere, really, which that might just wake them up a little bit more prior to that. Although they'd had a tough cup game against Dortmund in midweek, so maybe that could explain that one. I think they're on an interesting run. Quite a lot of both teams score no, actually, with Leverkusen games. Not that I'd get involved in that market. I quite like the corners in this game as well. I mean, you can get plus money for over 9.5 corners, which, I mentioned last week, Newcastle, every time I watch one of their games, there's a corner going on. I mean, I think the Burnley match had 18 corners. I always used to back Denmark corner overs with this manager when he was in charge of the national team. So I'm going to have to bet both in. But I just wonder what sort of... Newcastle sometimes throwing some absolute stinkers away from home where they offer absolutely nothing. And I've got a bad feeling about them here. I just think they're going to be really looking ahead to that match at the weekend, and they might offer very, very little. I think Bayer Leverkusen drawing a bet for me is the best bet of the night overall. But there is money for Leverkusen, 81% of the money and 90% of the tickets on them. 91% of the money is on the over for this game as well. You mentioned the goal line. It is at minus 175 for over 2.5.
Yeah.
So it's just not quite backable yet, really, for you, that is it, Will?
No way. No, not there.
If it could. Okay, let's go to Dortmund then. Borussia Dortmund against Bodo Glimt. Dortmund, clear favourites here. I think they're knocking on the door of the -2 Asian handicap, actually. Bodo Glimt 8-1 with Bet Rivers. You know, I think it's one of those matches where Dortmund will be expected to win and should get the job done. Not a team I get right very often. Will, so I might be leaning more on you here. I do like the goals, though. The goal line is high, 3.5. I think first half goals is one I might look at here, over 1.5 first half goals. But as always, with Dortmund involved, I'm a little bit cautious.
Yeah, I'm with you on the goals. Basically, it's quite a lot of money came for Bodo plus 1 3/4 overnight, which kind of does make sense given they went off +1 away to Galatasaray in October. And Dortmund, yes, they're better than Galatasaray, but they're probably not 3/4 of a goal better. So yeah, there's been money for Bodo, which originally saw some money for the under 3.5 as well. So we did get a line of 3.25 at one point, which I've got written down as my bet at -129 over 3.25. Bodo games are just notorious for very, very high goal expectancy. And in both of their away games so far in this competition have had 4 goals. The first, a 2-2 draw with Slavia Prague, contained an astronomical 6.5 total expected goals. And then they went and lost 3-1 away to Galatasaray, had 5.2 total expected goals. So I'd feel quite uncomfortable being on any under in a Bodo Glimt game. Kind of likewise with Dortmund, actually, in this competition. Their games so far have contained 4, 5, 5, 6, and 8 goals, respectively. So that's an average of well over 5. I think with Bodo sitting on 2 points, they can't really sit back. Dortmund need a win to move into the top 8. It's really hard to not see at least 3 goals here. So, yeah, the line's gone a little bit too much now. Maybe we see some more Bodo money, which will push the unders as well, because theoretically they're linked, the underdog and the unders goal. So maybe we get that -120 odd on the over 3.25 closer to kickoff again. And if we do, that'll be an official bet for me.
Quite like the player prop here, and it's my go-to man, Jens Petter Horger, -115 for a shot on target or more. They will get chances on the break here, Bodo Glimt, I'll say that. They're the sort of team who will create. Dortmund leave you space as well. It's a question whether you're going to take advantage of it. He'll get free on the left-hand side and he'll cut inside and he'll try and shoot. hopefully he can find the target. Plus 115, Jens Petter Hauge. I do like that over 1.5 goals in the first half. Bodo have actually been training in Marbella in Spain, so they've had a bit of a warm weather camp heading into the game. They've had 10 days off. Now, that's quite a long break for them. It's been a hectic autumn for Bodo Glimt, and there's been matches where I don't think they've had anything left in the tank whatsoever. I think there'll be more in the tank today, though, and I think they'll give it a good crack. Dortmund win for me. I'm going to say something like 3-2 here, Will. I'm going to surprise people. I think Glimt can stay within the handicap, and I think the goals line will go up. The manager, by the way, looks like he is going to sign a new deal with the club, which is a surprise. Been linked with several sides in Europe, like Ajax, Celtic. It looks like he is going to sign a new deal, although nothing is concrete yet. Producer Troy came up with some really good stats regarding Glimt and Dortmund, and the trends are basically both teams scoring and over goals. And I'm guessing that will be quite a big popular pick. Having said that, Jimmy Underwood says I'm going under here. So there's always someone going against the grain, which is fair enough. Jake Albrish says he's all over Madrid at nearly 2-1. Madrid to win and PSG double chance on a double there for him. But yeah, generally there's going to be a lot of majority of people going to be on the overs for this game. 96% of the money's on Dortmund. 99% of the money's on the over, Will. Just 1% going on the under in this game. That just kind of sums it all up, doesn't it? You just feel so uncomfortable going under with either of these two teams, doesn't it?
Yeah, having said that, though, I'm feeling kind of a bit uncomfortable that this is a consensus pick. So yeah, we'll see how we go. But probably not as confident given we're all in the same boat.
Yeah, it's one of those where every man and his dog is on the bet on the overs, and sometimes these don't always come in. Aaron Blake says Garassi to score 2 goals. He's due a haul, that is for sure. Let's move to a very unusual match now in the Champions League. And it's unusual, I say that, because of the goal line. You do not get many matches in the Champions League now where under 2.5 goals is at minus 186. But that's what we get with Benfica Napoli. And it's a proper pick'em game, really. Benfica, the favourites, but only slightly. And I've got to be honest, before I even looked at the odds for this game, I was thinking under as well, Will. And it's mainly because of the manager matchup. Jose Mourinho against Antonio Conte, 2 former Premier League winning managers for Chelsea. They have met each other 7 times before, and 5 of those 7 fixtures have gone under 2.5 goals. But, I mean, under 2 Asian goals is minus money here. The goal line is just too low for me to get involved in, even though I would, categorically agree under 2.5 goals is probably likely. How do you see it?
Yeah, I don't really have a view on the total. I can see why there's been money for unders. Napoli, like you said, first of all, the manager matchup, but then Napoli especially are just very, very low goal expectancy this season. I was actually hoping that Napoli would drift so I could back them plus a quarter. But I'm going to have to go the other way because there's been so much money for Napoli and the main line's the Tino bet now. So if we continue to see money for Napoli, I will be betting Benfica on the draw no bets. I'm not really convinced by them under Mourinho, and they've been far from impressive so far in this competition. But they weren't too bad in the derby at the weekend. And Napoli come in with a number of key absences here. Anguissa and Kevin De Bruyne being long-term injuries, and they've been joined by Lobotka on the treatment table. Theoretically, I guess they're starting midfield 3, although I think McTominay would have an argument there. And I think there's starting to become some value on Benfica, basically. The line hasn't really caught up yet on Bet Rivers. We're looking at minus 130 odd on the Tino bet. But if that does continue to drift, which I think it should on Bet Rivers, I think we should eventually see in the minus 120s. That will start to become very interesting for me.
I mean, perhaps one of the negatives, if you were looking at the backing on the under goals, is that Benfica are in, I think, nearly in must-win territory. Just 3 points on the board. You've got to make the most of your home games in this competition. And, a 0-0 draw is not going to cut the mustard for them. For Napoli, it's not bad, but I think it's interesting this with the Portuguese. The Portuguese teams often give me problems. Actually, Will. I mean, I was watching Sporting last night. Thought they actually played quite well against Bayern at times. This league confuses me a lot because I feel like sometimes the teams do play quite well, and sometimes they're well below par. So I find them hard to rate. Benfica here, but you would say at the moment the value is on the Portuguese side. I
mean, it's just one of those games where I'd be backing Napoli plus a quarter if it was the line that it was yesterday, around about -120. But equally, I'd be interested in backing Benfica -110 on the draw on the Tino bet. So it should be in between handicaps. And if it's on the plus a quarter, I'll back Napoli. If it's on the Tino bet, I'll back Benfica. I'm kind of a bit side agnostic here, more interested in getting odds that I think are value.
Just looking at Abuelo Charles says James Eastham is on Napoli plus a quarter. Antonio Conte is one of his favourite managers, though, Abuelo Charles. Antonio Conte and Sean Dyche. James loves those. We'll quiz him about them, his favourite managers tomorrow. But the betting splits of the game. 73% of the money on Napoli, 89% of the tickets on Napoli, 79% of the money's on the under for this game. That's one of the biggest ever splits for under money that I've ever seen on doing this Champions League show. It just shows you that's what everyone's expecting. Biggest bet on the game is $2,000 on under 1.5 goals at plus 210. And we do have some lineups for the Ajax game against Qarabag. There we can see the positions. Your player prop for Ajax, Oscar Gluck, is involved here. Well, the latest odds on Qarabag, they're minus money now to beat Ajax. They're minus 107. Is that going to shorten before kickoff? I mean, that's incredible how they've so rapidly decreased.
I mean, it's already shortened a lot, right? Just based off that Ajax lineup, I think. I mean, I don't know who Sean Stewart is. Maybe the chat can enlighten me, but I've never heard his name before.
Me neither.
So it looks like they're rotating quite a bit with Der Klassiker in mind.
Yeah, that's why Qarabag are being backed minus money now to beat Ajax. Qarabag were plus 110 when we discussed things at the top of the show, of course. I think Qarabag will get the job done there. Ajax will have other things in mind. 2 more matches to discuss on the card. The second part of your daily double now comes in Turin, Will. Juventus are clear favourites to beat Pafos. Pafos a huge price to win the game, actually, 16-1. And Juventus minus 670. The tie is at plus 700. The first part of your daily double is, of course, over 2.5 goals in the Real Madrid game. The second part of your daily double is a little bit different, going off script compared to normal.
Yeah, I mean, we've cashed quite a few winning tickets, haven't we, on Pafos this season? It's fair to say they've overperformed in this competition. 1 win, 3 draws, 1 loss. That loss was to Bayern Munich, I believe. So, I mean, they are certainly overperforming, and we're looking at a 2.25 goal handicap on Juve here at home. I'd lean Pafos on the plus 2.25 line, but I think as part of the daily double, because we're doubling 2 selections, combining the odds, we can get Pafos plus 3 in the daily double with that over 2.5 in the Real Madrid Man City game. That gets us to around about plus 100 or plus money. And plus 3 on Pafos. Famous last words that it's hard to see them losing by more than 3 goals. But Juve have only won 1 of 5 so far in this competition. Despite them being desperate for the win, I think the market's just overvaluing them and yet again undervaluing Pafos.
Yeah, I mean, for this bet to lose, or that part of the bet to lose, Juventus would have to win by 4 goals or more, which they've not really shown any signs of doing that against anyone recently. We know Vlahovic is injured for quite a few months now. There is a player that I really like for Juventus at the minute, though, and that is the Turkish wonder kid, Yildiz. I really like this guy, Kenan Yildiz. He's plus 110 to score any time, and I think that is a bet. He changed the game against Bodo Glimt. He scored a brace against someone recently, and I think he actually scored against Napoli the weekend as well. This guy's going to go right to the top of the game, I believe, and I would trust him more than Openda and David. He's got more about him, more confidence about him, and I think Yildiz for me would be a better plus 110. Voided, of course, by Bet Rivers if he doesn't start the game. But in terms of Juventus in general, yeah, I think it might be one of those sort of games for them. Get the win and get out of here, really. They need to focus on the Serie A form as well. They've got Bologna and Roma coming up. They're going to be in the back of their minds. And Pafos, I mean, this match really means more to Pafos than it does Juventus, as we've seen in the Champions League, that they have fought really, really hard in this competition. Getting results as well. I know they were at home, but Monaco and the Villarreal. So, yeah, I mean, Dan Roebuck's come in with his +2 pick on Pafos. We know Dan's a massive fan of Pafos, but he's profited on them a lot in Europe in the last year, really. So, if you were to have a single bet on the game with the +2, interest you, Will?
+2.25 is the kind of general line. So maybe the +2.25 would be a lean, yeah.
Brad Bettsford says, shout out to the Pokemon player and attacking mid for Pafos. Pafos Dragomir. I don't really know anything about Pokemon. So that's probably a really, really good pun there, Brad Betts. But I know very little. I know there's a darts player who has a nickname called Pikachu. He comes onto the Pokemon theme. The Darts World Championship starting tomorrow, by the way. I think Nigel Seeley is going to be on Advent Calendar duty with the darts. So I know there's a darts player with a Pikachu nickname, but I don't know much else about Pokemon. Just going back to the stats. That's a daily double on screen, by the way. -110 if you combine that +3 with Real Madrid, Man City over 2.5 goals. Just 90% of the money on Juventus and 95% of the tickets. 63% of the money's on the over. I mean, the over goal line is about 3.5 here, isn't it? I do believe. It looks a little bit high for what it is. Flipping, it's +107 for over 3.5. A couple more games to discuss. Club Brugge against Arsenal. Club Brugge +750 at Arsenal -305. Over 3.5 goals at +138. My initial feeling here, Will, was actually Club Brugge +1.5 goals might be worth a nibble, considering Arsenal's defensive absences. They're 100%, by the way, in the league as well. It's not like this is do or die for them. They've only got Wolves at the weekend, but the Premier League feels like a priority for Arsenal right now.
Yeah, exactly. I think it is a hard game to call, given we don't know what our 11 Arteta's going to put out here, given Arsenal have practically qualified for the top 8. And at the same time, Club Brugge have just replaced their manager. So a lot of unknowns here. But at the end of the day, Brugge have been impressive in both of their home games, at least so far this campaign. They beat Monaco convincingly in matchday 1. They held Barca to a 3-3 draw. So I do lean Club Brugge +1.5 too. It's probably not an official bet. I just don't like betting against Arsenal, really, no matter what 11 they put out, because they've got a very deep squad. I think Declan Rice has stayed back in London. I think he's sick. And obviously they're missing Saliba and Gabriel at the back as well. So yeah, I lean Bruges +1.5. And if anyone's interested in player props, I think you could do a lot worse than backing Eberechi Eze shot on target at -167. It's a little shorter than I'd like, especially not knowing how many minutes he's going to get here. But if he does start and get at least an hour, I think there's a bit of value even at the -167 in Eze.
Pitch Focus TV says Arsenal will want to win after that weekend result. They'll want to win and they may well get the win. But I've seen Arsenal just win these away games by the odd one goal sometimes. -305 just seems short to me, considering the team news that they have. I mean, there's quite a few suggesting the over goals line here might be worth looking at. But I mean, both teams' score is -122. But I mean, we saw Club Brugge have a really good go against Barcelona, of course. But Arsenal don't tend to suck teams into shootouts, do they? So could be one of them. It could be low scoring, potentially.
It's a tricky game, but yeah, I think if there is any value, it's slightly with Bruges +1.5.
Villa fan says, "Can we get Will a gold jacket?" We are thinking about a jacket for Will. There was an incredible jacket that we saw out on Friday night, wasn't there? A sparkly one, but I think it came to a vote last time. A blue jacket, a royal blue jacket for Will White is what we are considering. So I'll leave that in the hands of the boss and take it from there. But yeah, put in chat what color jacket should Will have? Should it be gold or something different? I think a different color might be not a bad idea. Anyway, betting splits for that game for those who are interested in it. If I just get it now, there's so many fixtures. 79% of the money on Arsenal and 92% of the money is on the over. There has been a $1,000 bet on Club Brugge money line plus 850. That would net a decent return for a very brave bet there. Final game on the card to discuss: Athletic Bilbao against PSG. Paris Saint-Germain are the favourites at -141 and Bilbao plus 370. Tie is plus 290 for this fixture. I mean, Athletic Club have been involved in a lot of big games recently, and here's another big one for them. My lean here would be under 2.75 if I had to take anything, Will.
I appreciate that Athletic Club are a tough nut to crack, especially at home. And there's been quite a lot of money for them. But I've got a feeling that PSG might just end up being a bit of value here. Maybe not at the -141, but if we do continue to see money for Bilbao, I think anything around -130 is value on PSG. And that's not my normal style of betting. Normally, I'd be on the Athletic Club side here, if anything. But I just think the stars are aligning. PSG looked very good on the weekend, a 5-0 win against Rennes, who are not so bad themselves. But the main factor behind my thinking is Athletic Club's schedule. This will be their third huge game in 7 days. They faced Real Madrid and Atleti in the last week. And Valverde also has a propensity to rotate in Champions League. They've had a few injuries. They're decimated at the back. Laporte is out long-term, and Paredes is suspended. So they've only got one fit central defender, albeit a good one. Vivian's a good central defender. But yeah, I could be tempted into backing PSG here.
Feels like the sort of game that they may well just have too much quality, really. And look, I mean, Bilbao for the most part of the season have not really been in great form. They did beat Atletico Madrid, which was probably a surprise compared to. I mean, but Real Madrid did a really good job on them last week. And if PSG come with the big guns and take it seriously, I think I could see that at -141. I'm always drawn to the under when Athletic Club are involved. So I think the under 2.75. I could see 0-1 or 0-2 here, actually. Athletic Club they don't convert the chances enough. 96% of the money is actually on PSG here, and 98% of the tickets. They are well backed, and 96% of the money is on the over as well. But that concludes the card today. We do have the team news from the Villarreal game, just for those who are interested. Villarreal against FC Copenhagen, of course. The player that you mentioned is not, unfortunately, in that lineup, Will, for the player prop for this one. It's going to be 4-4-2 in some form. I think then it will be a case of Mikatadze, maybe Nicolas Pepe up front. But Pepe often comes in from one of the wide areas, so it could be a tweak of system. The latest odds for this game, for those who are interested, Villarreal have been back slightly into -250, and FC Copenhagen are +550. There has been money for the over here. Over 3.5 goals is +110. I don't get that. I just don't get why you'd be betting over 3.5 goals at +110 in this game. But it is what it is. We'll put the Daily Double back on the screen in a minute. But what would be your best bets on the card overall in singles today, Will?
Best bets would be, the price is gone now with that Ajax lineup, but the Qarabag -1/4. I mean, my best bets, I put it up on the Betting Weekly advent calendar. Jude Bellingham to have a shot on target. There are lots of good player props today. And I just wanted to add one actually on that PSG game. If anyone that fancies Vitinha, who's been on cracking form, and especially in the Champions League, 4 goals in 5 in the Champions League. And he averages 1.2 shots on target per 90 in those games. He's plus 155 to have a shot on target, and he likes to have a hit from distance. And he's got his eye in from just outside the box. So I think that's also too big. But yeah, the bet of the days are gone really with the Qarabag minus a quarter.
Vitinha is plus 950 with Bet Rivers to score outside the penalty box, which that's actually quite a big price, to be honest with you. You can bet on this market in this game. I think in most of the other Champions League fixtures as well. You can also bet on to score with a header in these big games. So Vitinha for that shot on target. Everybody obviously saying Man City draw no bet is the best bet for him. And Vitinha did hit a couple of screamers absolutely against Spurs for me. Bayer Leverkusen are the best bet of the day. Draw no bet against Newcastle. And I really like over 9.5 corners in that match as well. Elsewhere, I'm with you with Qarabag. They're now plus 100 on the money line. So they have drifted back a bit. You said that might happen. And in terms of the Bodo Glimt game against Dortmund, that over 1.5 goals in the first half is what I like. And I'm going to put the Daily Double back on screen. This is Will's Daily Double. Juventus against Pafos. That is Pafos are plus 3 on the Asian handicap, and then Real Madrid Man City over 2.5 goals at minus 110. And reminder, you can join us on the breakdown show later. This is going to be at 5:15 p.m. Eastern time. Me and Will go about 25 minutes discussing the midweek events in the Champions League and soccer in general. So if you want to pick either of our brains in that, then do tune in. Betting Weekly Live US edition is going to be at 4 p.m. Eastern time. But looking forward to the breakdown again, Will. It should be fun, that one.
Yeah, me too. Get your questions in. We like, that's what we kind of want it to be, a bit of a kind of freestyle, answering all the questions about the Champions League, about soccer in general, about futures markets, about the up-and-coming weekend card, about Arne Slot. I'm sure there'll be lots of Liverpool-related questions. But yeah, we're keen to get involved. So get your questions in nice and early, and we'll line up our responses.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything goes. No hiding. Basically, it's going to be an interesting show. I'm looking forward to that one. But thanks everyone who joined live or on demand today. Really appreciate your support both the last 2 days in the Champions League. Remember, please do hit that like button, and please continue to subscribe as well. I know we had a lot of newbies in yesterday who did subscribe. We are now over 12,000 subscribers on the channel, Will, which is a great milestone for it because we win. Let's hope we can get to 13,000 as soon as possible. I'll be back tomorrow on Betting Weekly Live as well with James Easton, as per usual, in the Europa League. But until later for the breakdown from me and Will, it is goodbye and bet responsibly. But let's cash loads of winners on the card today. Take care, everyone. See you next time.